Good morning, my lovely listeners. Esquivel here. Welcome to my weekly podcast, Ask Esquivel. Continuing on from last week, today's theme is going to be Relationships 101. Now, if you're an OG subscriber, then you know one of my many goals is to remain consistent with the topics that I cover. With this in mind, today I'll be welcoming more callers who generally just seek guidance or want a fresh perspective on a dilemma that they may be facing. Remember, there are no judgments here, just honesty. So you know the drill. Pick up that phone and give your girl Esquivel a ring. I'll be waiting. Our first caller today is Elena. Hi, Elena. Welcome to Ask Esquivel. How can I help you today? Hello, Esquivel. Thank you for taking my call. I need some help with a disrespectful, ungrateful daughter of mine, whom I have protected and handed everything to. Despite the fact that as a fatherless individual, she could have ended up as a bum or a sex slave in the streets had I not provided her with all comforts necessary. Now, she wants to take away my right to a caretaker until I die by marrying some Casanova neighborhood boy over my dead body. How do you suggest that I set her straight? Well, Elena, that is extremely frustrating, and I can feel your frustration. It seems to me as though your frustration comes from several things that you are dealing with beyond being a mother. You have been fighting in what sounds like a man's fear. You must be tired. Do you feel as though maybe you are saddened by your husband's loss and maybe taking it out on your spoiled daughter? What? How dare you question me? Now, Elena, you did call me. I'm just trying to be of good assistance. Do you feel that may be the case? Let's say that it is. Are you implying that I don't get the tradition I have earned? I never said that. My suggestion to make a decision that is in the best interest for you and your daughter is what I'm suggesting here. Do you perhaps have another daughter that has no prospects? Well, see, you don't always have to stick with all the details of tradition. Surely you can mix it up to ensure that everyone uncontrollably involved is getting their best interests put into consideration. Maybe the prospectless daughter would be even happier. You never know unless you take chances. Don't give up on a circumstance that may seem unfair to your own desires. After all, there is more than one solution to a problem. You're right. I understand how to approach this now. Thank you, Esquivel. No problem, and have a nice day. Our next caller today is a gentleman by the name of John. Welcome, John. Good morning, Esquivel. It's a pleasure that you're even on the line with me. I'm such a huge fan. Aw, John, the pleasure is certainly all mine. How can I help you today? You see, the issue that I'm facing is that I can't decide whether I should or should not marry the girl that I initially proposed to. If you don't mind me asking, what makes you so skeptical? After all, you did propose to her for a reason. Yes, of course, that's right. But she's changed so much. Initially, I took her in from horrid conditions that she was facing at home. Her mother accused her of being crazy, and instead of taking her to an asylum like her mother ordered, I invited her into my home. I cared for her, bathed her, fed her, kept her company, etc. I even opened up about family history that I never mentioned to others unless I feel they are important. She's special, but she did something terrible that has my heart torn between two choices. Wow, that's some major stuff. Sounds like you were the hands that rescued her from horror, and I'm pretty sure she'll never forget that. But from the sound of it, the real confusion of emotion isn't with you, it's her. However, what is it that she did to you? One of the worst things anyone can do. She slept with someone else. She explained to me that she was originally in love with this other man and couldn't help but face the feelings that she felt. To me, that didn't make sense, which is why I'm calling. I want answers so that I don't continue to feel like a fool. Aw, John, you are nowhere near a fool. You see, love is like a scientific reaction. For a moment, we are dazzled by an intense emotion, an emotion that brings pleasant warmth within us, fading slowly as time goes by until a new explosion comes along to revive it, which was what you were for her at first. Yet as time goes on, each person has to discover what will set off those explosions in order to live. Since the combustion that occurs when one of them is ignited is what nourishes the soul. That fire, in short, is its good. If one doesn't find out in time what will set off these explosions, the box of matches dampens and not a single match will ever be lighted. This was the case for her. She found someone who once set off the explosions, and for that, she will always go back. It's not your fault that you're on the same mission as her to find who will nourish your soul. But remember, just because you're on the same mission does not mean that you're on the same level. In that context, it does make sense why she acted the way that she did. It doesn't justify it, but it gives it more of an understandable perspective. That being said, would you still suggest marrying her? Unfortunately, John, I see her way past the point of marriage with you. She's too conflicted with what she wants, and the best advice is to stay a good distance away from people like her, so that it's easier to protect ourselves from becoming those who are extinguish ourselves. Devote yourself to someone who's worth it and wants more out of life than just the past they are comfortable with. Yes, I agree 100%. Thank you so much, Escobar. Anytime, John. Have a good rest of your day. Our last caller for today is a woman by the name of Rosaura. Hello, Rosaura. How can I help you today? Hello, Escobar. So, recently, I've been actually quite distressed and dealing with some internal issues. These issues vary from things such as depression, being uncomfortable, and even some physical changes as well that have been difficult for me to deal with. Sadly, this has also resulted in my husband becoming more and more distant over time. So I just wanted to ask you the general question of how do you suggest that one can save their marriage? Well, I'm very sorry that you've had these recent experiences. And if we're talking about your marriage and specifically, my first question is, what is your husband doing that makes you feel so distant? Well, he just doesn't pay attention to me. Like, for example, the other night he went out for a drive, and when he returned, I tried to embrace him, but he just completely ignored me. And then a little later that night, I heard him weeping in the bathroom quietly, but he returned to the bed as if nothing happened. So I didn't bother to mention it the next day. I didn't want to feel like I was bugging him. That's definitely a strange behavior. I mean, you shouldn't have to feel like you're bugging him if that's your husband. It sounds like there's a deeper lying issue that he's dealing with that is way beyond what you're assuming it to be. Oftentimes in marriage, once the act of ignorance occurs, the emotions that we feel because of it are a reflection of how we may have had the other person feel once. It's kind of like the saying goes, treat others how you want to be treated. So does that in any way kind of ring a bell? Not that I can recall. I've always treated him with love and care despite the fact that my mother arranged this whole freaking marriage to begin with. Aha, that's what it is. Since you were vulnerable to the authoritarian role of your mother because you felt you had no control, he is now taking advantage of similar opportunity so that he can act as he pleases. That's where it needs to end. You can no longer allow yourself to be influenced into going along with circumstances that you may not agree with. Okay, so say that is the case. What do you suggest are my options to fix the situation, if I have options? Well, actually, you do have options. You have two. The first option is to stand up for yourself. Speak up and demand to discuss with your husband about what to do to ensure that there won't be any more ignorance or unfair advantage of authority. Your second option is to ignore him like he is doing to you and allow your marriage to fall apart. Personally, I'm in favor of the first option because not only will you be fighting for your marriage, but you'll grow a stronger bond with him, hoping to find the thing that has kept you guys together for this amount of time, despite the fact that it was an arranged marriage to begin with. Okay, that makes sense. I definitely have grown a tremendous amount of feelings for him. And from what you're saying, I do realize now that I have to reflect upon my own involvement in certain circumstances before assuming that it's always someone else's fault. I'm determined to fight and win my marriage back. Thank you, Escobar, for giving such authentic advice. No, Rosaura. Thank you for trusting me with the ability to do so. I hope that you have a nice day. You too as well. Unfortunately, that's all the calls that I can take for today. So a big thank you to Elena, John, and Rosaura for calling in. Overall, relationships are unpredictable. As we go on in life, we all have various amounts of altercations that will go and have different outcomes. Maybe for some of us, the relationships we're in end up going our way, and for others, not so much. Either way, it's a-okay. One of the main things that I took from today is that tradition oftentimes acts as a barrier from getting what we want, and it shouldn't. Tradition is simply in place to give guidance, to show the common choices others have made before us over time. Never let someone use the excuse of tradition to force you into making a decision you don't want to, because it's fine to make mistakes. We weren't given a handbook with instructions on how to deal with life, relationships, or even ourselves for that matter. We must remember that every day is a learning process. Take things step by step, and if you fail, enjoy it, because it's the best part. It ensures that you are that much closer to success. Now, that's all I have for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe to be updated on my podcast each week. Remember, live life and love hard. Peace. I'll talk to you guys later.